The Clinton administration is pursuing quiet diplomacy to try to get the 2 Americans freed in Iraq and is blasting Republicans for raising the possibility of military action. Wolf Blitzer has the latest.
President Clinton is trying to free 2 Americans held in Iraq through quiet diplomacy. Officials say he may send a mid-level emissary to Europe in the coming days to consult with the allies. In the meantime, the president and his advisors are carefully avoiding too much saber-rattling.
We certainly will not exclude any option that we might have, but right now it's a matter for the most effective use that we can have of diplomacy.
In contrast, a senior administration official says comments made over the weekend by Indiana Senator Richard Lugar and commentator Pat Buchanan suggesting military force may be necessary are bizarre. He says the Republicans are taking cheap shots by discussing the possibility of walking up to the edge of military action. How badly do they want press in the Republican primaries, the official asks. Lugar's response?
Strength on our part, and particularly strength on the part of the president, is imperative, because not only are Iraqi eyes watching what the president and therefore the United States says, but so are other countries that apparently do not wish this well.
Officials say the Pentagon so far has not been asked to take any additional military steps. They say organizing an invasion force to free 2 Americans is ridiculous. Defense Secretary William Perry rejects Iraqi accusations the 2 were engaged in sabotage.
This rhetoric is so contrary to facts, it's almost not worth commenting on. I don't understand what they're doing, making outrageous statements like that.
The 2 civilian defense contractors, David Delaberti and William Barloon, had accidentally crossed into Iraq from Kuwait. Saturday, they were sentenced to 8 years in prison. The last time an American strayed into Iraq was in 1993. Kenneth Beatty, an oil exploration specialist, was also sentenced to 8 years but was released after 5 months. The U.S. has been working through the Polish embassy in Baghdad, but officials say other countries which have some leverage with the Iraqis, including France and Russia, are also weighing in. A senior administration official says the Iraqis seem to be anxious to make a deal. They would release the 2 Americans in exchange for the U.S. easing up on the UN oil embargo. The official says the president will make no such deal. Wolf Blitzer, CNN, the White House.
President Clinton will travel to Moscow in May for a summit meeting with Russian President Boris Yeltsin. Preparations are now underway, and already there's talk of low expectations. Steve Hurst explains.
Boris and Bill, honeymooners no more. Tough issues at their coming summit, and no indication solutions are at hand. The best to be expected, to keep the Moscow-Washington ties from souring further. A preview given by respective ambassadors together for a study of how U.S.-Soviet relations went from détente to renewed Cold War almost overnight in the late 1970s. Yuli Vorontsov warning not to take Moscow for granted this time around.
Any attempt to minimize the role of Russia, for example, in Europe, can only restore the old undesirable pattern of behavior.
Thomas Pickering acknowledging major differences.
We'll give the presidents an opportunity to compare notes at a time when relations obviously require a comparison of notes.
The issues, politics, money, and pride. Money. Russia is desperate for hard currency and wants to sell nuclear reactors to Iran. Washington says that is aiding and abetting a terrorist state with nuclear weapons ambitions. Pride. Russia wants to ensure it's taken seriously in Europe, and to that end is objecting to the expansion of the U.S.-led NATO alliance into Eastern Europe. Politics. President Clinton is under fire for going to the Moscow summit to celebrate a military victory while that military continues fighting on brutally in Chechnya. Politics being the art of the possible, diplomacy is the art of the predictable. And the more minimal those predictions, the less likely diplomacy, especially summit diplomacy, can be viewed as having failed. So with that in mind, expectations for the Clinton-Yeltsin meeting are being lowered with both hands. Steve Hurst, CNN, the State Department.
Prosecutor Marcia Clark is getting more and more hostile towards O.J. Simpson house guest Kato Kalin in the Simpson trial. Linda Joyce reports on today's shortened court session.
He's a prosecution witness, but prosecutor Marcia Clark doesn't like his answers.
I'm going to ask leave of the court to take this witness as a hostile witness.
Clark asked for permission from Judge Lancito to treat Kato Kalin as a hostile witness, to force Kalin to give her the answers she expects. As a hostile witness, Clark can ask leading questions, as if she was cross-examining her own witness.
In direct examination, a traditional question would be, and what did O.J. Simpson do next when he came out and saw the limousine? A leading question would be, and then didn't O.J. Simpson tell you not to pick up his bag and take the bag himself? In other words, the leading question suggests the answer, whereas the non-leading question leaves it entirely for the witness to supply the answer.
Kalin hedged on his answers about Simpson's demeanor the afternoon preceding the murders last June. Under questioning from defense attorney Robert Shapiro, Cato Kalin said Simpson was not upset. Under pressure from prosecutor Marcia Clark, the answer changed.
He testified for Mr. Shapiro that he was not angry or agitated when he spoke of Sidney and the recital. And now you've just told us that he was upset when he spoke of Sidney and the recital.
Yes. Sustained. Ask a question.
Can you explain to us then, how do you want to leave it, Mr. Kalin? Was the defendant upset when he spoke of trying to see Sidney at the recital?
There was some upsetness, yes.
When it was his turn, defense attorney Robert Shapiro also brought up Simpson's demeanor the day of the murders, asking Kalin to once again describe it.
Is there any question in your mind that O.J. Simpson was not acting in any unusual manner?
He was not acting unusual, no.
Kalin will be back on the stand Tuesday for his 5th day and probably his last in Los Angeles. Linda Joyce, JET TV Action News at 11.
Stock market continues to climb higher and higher into record territory. A key member of the Federal Reserve Board resigns. Harley Hotchkiss has our business brief.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average has closed on yet another record high, 4157.34. It climbed 18 2/3 points amid new evidence economic expansion is under control. Sales of previously owned homes slid 5% last month. That was the second decline in a row, and experts cited higher mortgage rates.
It just continues a tumble. It's been going on since early 1994, which proves, I guess, what we already know, that rising rates are poison to the real estate market.
A strong supporter of raising interest rates to fight inflation is leaving the Federal Reserve Board. John LaWare's resignation takes effect April 30th. With today's business brief, I'm Harley Hotchkiss, JET TV Action News at 11.
Who won the football game? Seems like it's football season again. Here we are, early Tuesday morning.
That's what it feels like. Who won the Oscars?
Yeah, really.
Anyway, it looks like as we head through, maybe Wednesday we'll see some sunshine, but tomorrow, kind of a lot of clouds in the area. You got me all messed up. Football and Oscars. It's late. Anyway, we'll take a look at our forecast in a moment.